I want to make a quick video on freedom and how my idea of freedom has changed like over the last few years compared to what it used to be. Like it's always been something that I've put quite a lot of emphasis on in my own life, like the idea of being free or not being tied down, or like I did a lot of traveling when I was younger. And that was kind of my idea of freedom, was having no ties and being able to go wherever I wanted, whenever I wanted, and not being held down by relationships or a permanent job. Like I always avoided having permanent job roles. I'd kind of just jump from one job to the other because that felt way more free to me. Same with relationships. I'd often jump from one to the other because that felt like freedom to me. Countries, places to live, and I'm not saying any of those things are bad. Like I had some really good experiences living in various countries and all that sort of thing. But the trouble with believing that freedom comes from somewhere outside of ourselves is that there's always kind of somewhere to get to be free. And what I've come to realize quite recently, to be honest, like in the last few years, this has really, really become apparent to me, is that freedom is much more a state than it is a place to get to. And so I'll give some examples of that. Like to me, like going on my old idea of freedom and like what it meant to be free would be backpacking was like the ultimate freedom. But then there'd be a lot of times that I'd be traveling and I wouldn't feel very free. I'd have loads of stuff to do. I'd feel quite tied down by my schedule and all that sort of thing. Um, and so it kind of disproves that logic that, oh, I'm away, I'm free, I can do whatever I want to do, because there's always going to be things to do. Whereas now, like for instance, my current situation, I'm married, I live in a house which I've bought, so I have a mortgage, which I would have previously considered being tied down. Marriage obviously is something that I would have previously considered being tied down to. I have a permanent job now that I go to regularly, and I'm starting a business. Those are other things that previously I'd have thought of as, whoa, no, there's no freedom there. Like you're definitely tied down to those things. But what I've realized is that it doesn't work like that. Like freedom is how you show up. Like freedom is a state of mind, and freedom is understanding where our experience comes from. So, for example, like if I start to get the feeling now of being tied down or constricted or anything like that, I realize that that's not true. Like that's just a thought construct. Like that's just a thought construct that I'm having in the moment. And actually, I probably feel freer now than I ever have done in my life because of the mindset that I'm into. And not feeling that I need to change circumstances in order to be free. And that's probably the biggest thing and the main point I wanted to make in this video, is that there is no set of circumstances that can create freedom for you. Regardless of your circumstances, you can experience freedom. Like I'm going to butcher this quote now because I didn't write it down. I'm thinking of it offhand. But when Nelson Mandela was imprisoned for years, he said something along the lines of, they can imprison me physically, but they can never imprison my mind. Like it's the one thing that he realized. And Viktor Frankl as well, who was in the Nazi concentration camps, came to a similar realization, that these people can physically imprison me, but they can never imprison my thoughts. So these are really two really powerful examples of people who were obviously in the most constricted possible environments, and yet saw that freedom isn't in the environment. Freedom is in how we show up. Freedom's in our mind. We're always free by the very fact that we have the freedom to think and think whatever we want and pay attention to whatever thoughts we want to pay attention to. Like there's no set of thoughts that we have to pay attention to. And to me, that's the ultimate freedom. There's nothing more freeing than knowing that we can pick and choose how we show up every day. We can pick and choose what we pay attention to. And so then knowing that, and knowing that thought arises and we can pay attention to it or not pay attention to it, and that it kind of is arbitrary and is always forever changing, is really, in my opinion and my experience, the ultimate freedom. That's the ultimate freedom, knowing that you're never held prisoner by what you're thinking, and that it is all something that will pass in and of itself. And so, yeah, I hope this has given anybody watching like a different perspective on freedom. And like, I'd love to hear people's points, whether they think, yeah, I hear what you're saying, Charlie, or no, don't agree with that at all. But thanks very much for watching. Take it easy and goodbye.